Hello, I'm David Hardesty, and in this lecture I provide an overview of the subject matter that will be covered in TA 352, Taxation of Electronic Commerce and Remote Sellers. If you have not already read the introduction to the course, please do so before continuing with this lecture. Here is an overview of the course. This course covers all of the important tax issues affecting online sellers. As you will see in this lecture, we cover a lot of different topics. In only a few cases will we be covering these topics in depth. Instead, for each area of taxation, we will concentrate on those issues that are unique to electronic commerce. Note that, as you will see when you begin reading the text also focuses only on topics that are important to electronic commerce. For example, when we study sales tax, we focus only on internet sellers and their peculiar problems, such as the requirement to collect tax in another state and the taxability of downloaded or digital products and services. There are far more issues in the study of sales tax that we will leave untouched. Likewise, when we study state income tax, we will study multi-state tax liability, since internet sellers are, by their nature, multi-state sellers. Also, when we study the apportionment of income for state income tax, we will spend most of our time on the sales factor, which is where online sellers face unique problems. Here are the topics we will be covering in this course. The business of electronic commerce, the tax accounting for website development costs, formation of an online business, acquisitions and dispositions of web-based businesses, sales tax on online transactions, multi-state income taxation of electronic commerce, international taxation of electronic commerce, including taxation of U.S. taxpayers selling to other countries, taxation of foreign taxpayers selling to customers in the United States, U.S. taxation of foreign corporations owned by U.S. taxpayers, and value-added tax. So here is a unit-by-unit breakdown of what we will be studying and the goals for each unit. Unit 1 is an overview of an introduction to electronic commerce. We will be covering the basic terminology of electronic commerce, the basic types of transactions taking place online. We will learn how to perform a functional analysis of a website, the purpose of which is to identify the type of business activities and therefore the types of tax issues that we will have to face. And we will become familiar with the basic activities associated with building websites. In Unit 2, we will begin studying website development costs. We will examine the basic accounting rules for the costs associated with website development, focusing on those costs that are peculiar to websites, including software, research and experimentation costs, and intangibles. The objectives of this unit are to identify capital versus deductible website costs, identify and account for software used in a website, understand the tax accounting rules for website content, and identify research and experimentation costs. In Unit 3, we continue our study of website development costs In this unit, we begin examining the accounting for Internet startup costs, research and experimentation credits for website development costs, special accounting issues related to website development costs. The objectives of this unit are to identify and account for startup costs, learn special accounting rules for online companies, and identify costs eligible for research and experimentation tax credits. In Unit 4, we change focus to the accounting for acquisitions and dispositions of web-based businesses. Our primary interest is the accounting for the intangibles that make up the primary assets of these businesses. The objectives of this unit are to learn to identify Section 197 intangibles acquired in connection with the acquisition of a web-based business, learn to account for transfers of assets to new web-based businesses, and learn to account for dispositions of assets held by web-based businesses. In Unit 5, we leave website development costs and turn to state sales and use tax. In this unit, we focus on identification of states in which Internet-based sellers have sales tax nexus. A seller with sales tax nexus in a state must collect that state's sales and use tax. The objectives of this unit are to learn how the physical presence rule limits sales tax nexus, learn to apply the physical presence rule, learn how affiliates in a state can cause an out-of-state seller to have sales tax nexus in the state, learn how a seller's agents in a state can cause nexus, learn the impact of the streamlined sales and use tax agreement, and learn special rules for sellers registered under the streamlined sales and use tax agreement. In Unit 6, we stay with sales and use tax, turning our attention to the identification of products and services that are subject to sales and use tax when sold online. The objectives of this unit are to learn general rules for determining when physically delivered products are subject to sales and use tax when sold online, learn what products are subject to sales and use tax when delivered electronically, learn what Internet-based services are subject to sales and use tax, learn the impact of the Internet Tax Freedom Act, and learn the special rules for sellers registered under the Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Agreement. In Unit 7, we turn to state income taxation. And like our study of sales tax, we first focus on seller nexus and the identification of states in which Internet-based sellers have state income tax nexus. A seller with income tax nexus in a state must pay that state's income tax. The objectives of this unit are to first learn the basics of multi-state income tax as they apply to online sellers, learn how physical presence affects income tax nexus, learn how affiliates in a state can cause an out-of-state seller to have income tax nexus in the state, and learn how a seller's agents in a state can cause nexus. In Unit 8, we continue with state income tax. In this unit, we study the allocation and apportionment of state income from internet-based sales. We focus on special rules for drop shipments and sellers of electronically delivered products and services. The objectives of this unit are to learn the basics of allocation and apportionment of income for state income tax, learn how to assign sales of tangible products for apportionment purposes, apply the special rules for drop shipments of tangible goods, learn how to apply the throwback rule for online sales, and understand the special rules for assigning sales of electronically delivered products and services.
Week 9 is a midterm exam. This is an open book, open notes exam, which covers material in units 1 to 8, and the exam is taken online. This exam is not proctored.
Unit 9 begins our exploration of the international taxation of electronic commerce. In this unit, we are introduced to international taxation of electronic commerce, and then we focus on determining the character and source of income from electronic commerce. As we will find, the right of a country to tax income from electronic commerce ordinarily turns on the character and source of that income. The objectives of this lecture are to obtain an overview of the areas of international taxation that the course will focus on, learn how to differentiate between different kinds of income from online sales, and learn how to determine the source of income from online sales, that is, the country from which the income arises. In Unit 10, our study of international taxation of electronic commerce turns to outbound transactions, which are sales by U.S. taxpayers to customers in other countries. We will learn the basic rules for determining whether a foreign country has the right to tax a U.S.-based internet seller, and learn how much income may be subject to tax in those countries. The objectives of this unit are to understand when a foreign country has the right to tax the business profits of a U.S. internet-based seller, learn the potential for taxation in a foreign treaty country versus a foreign non-treaty country, apply the rules for attributing profits to a foreign permanent establishment, and understand the difference between taxation of business profits versus taxation of royalty income. In Unit 11, we examine the international taxation of inbound transactions, which are sales by foreign taxpayers to U.S. customers. In this unit, we learn the basic rules for determining whether a foreign internet-based seller is taxable in the United States, and we learn how much income may be subject to U.S. tax. The objectives of this unit are to understand when the United States has the right to tax the business profits of a foreign internet-based seller, learn the potential for taxation of a foreign resident of a foreign treaty country versus a foreign resident of a foreign non-treaty country, apply the rules for attributing profits to a U.S. permanent establishment, apply the rules for U.S. taxation of income that is effectively connected with the conduct of a U.S. trade or business, and understand the difference between taxation of business profits versus royalty income. Unit 12 is the study of U.S. taxation of foreign corporations owned by U.S. persons. In this unit, we learn the basic rules for U.S. taxation of foreign corporations owned by U.S. persons, including transfers to foreign corporations and the rules for controlled foreign corporations. The objectives of this unit are to learn the potential for taxation of property transferred by U.S. persons to foreign corporations, understand the special rules under which U.S. shareholders of controlled foreign corporations are directly taxed on profits earned by those corporations, learn the special issues faced by foreign corporations engaged in sales of electronically delivered products and services. Unit 13 completes our study of international taxation of electronic commerce with a look at value-added tax and an introduction to transfer pricing. We will learn the basic rules for European value-added tax as they apply to internet-based sellers. Our look at transfer pricing focuses on the pricing of online transactions. The objectives of this unit are to learn the basics of European value-added tax, understand the special European value-added tax rules for internet-based sellers of services, and understand the basics of transfer pricing of online transactions.
The final week of the course is week 15, which is the final exam. This is an open book, open notes, proctored exam. This exam primarily covers the material in units 9 to 13. However, some of the questions on this exam assume an understanding of the concepts learned in the first half of the course, and for this reason, the exam covers some material in units 1 through 8.